Welcome, everyone, to another Leadership Legend interview. I'd like to introduce to you today Dr. Wolde-Ab Isaac, PhD, Chancellor of RCCD, the fifth largest community college district in the state of California, with the college in the cities of Moreno Valley, Norco, and Riverside. A bit of history of Dr. Isaac. Was born in Eritrea, East Africa, and graduated from Ethiopia's Haile Selassie University, where he majored in chemistry. His graduate studies took him to the University of Michigan, where he completed the MSc and PhD degree in medicinal chemistry and did postdoctoral studies at Uppsala University in Sweden before he eventually returned to Eritrea to work as Government Secretary of Human Resources. Dr. Isaac served as president of the University of Asmara in Eritrea from 1993 to 2006, and previously was a senior clinical researcher with AstraZeneca, a position he held for 12 years. He is also a father to two sons. With that said, Dr. Isaac, thank you for allowing me to interview a man with such a rich academic background. I have some questions for you today that will allow our viewers to have an understanding of who Dr. Isaac is. So here at Riverside City College, many of our male students and viewers don't even know sometimes the word of chancellor. Like, what is a chancellor? In your words, how can you describe your position here at Riverside as our chancellor?
So the chancellor is the only employee that the board employs.
Interesting.
The board of trustees has only one employee, and that's the chancellor. The chancellor takes care of the rest of the administration of the district. So what's the role of a chancellor?
Mm-hmm.
The chancellor is the chief servant of the district.
Interesting.
Develops a strategic plan through the participation of all stakeholders that would help the chancellor to guide the administration and the direction of the district. Through that planning process, we guarantee access to everyone that can benefit from the district. So if you look at our students, they look very much like the community that we serve.
Yes. Yes.
And we make sure that no one is left behind. So we have special populations that includes disabled students, veteran students, formerly incarcerated students, incarcerated students,
Correct.
And so on and so forth. So we ensure that access is provided to everyone. The second role of the chancellor, working with all the colleges and the vice chancellors in the district office, is to ensure that not only we admit students to give them access, but we actually ensure they are successful.
Interesting.
So we've created different ways of supporting our students through various engagement centers. We were the first to come up with a streamlined approach, which today we call it guided pathways.
Correct.
We had that developed here before guided pathway was known. So we make sure that our students graduate. And there are two paths. There are those who are studying with an end point to get a job, like in our career technical education, and most of them are placed in good jobs here in the Inland Empire. And the second group are going through a path of general education, wanting to transfer, and so we need to make sure that the transfer path is also laid out for them so that transfer is easiest. So we work with the Cal States, the UCs, the other private institutions to make sure that the path of success for students is in place. And then the last part is that we want to make sure that the whole teaching and learning environment is done in an atmosphere that celebrates equity.
Right.
That we want all our students to feel that they have equitable access to all the resources and the support that we provide them. We want to make sure that the achievement gaps between the various groups, between African Americans, Hispanics, whites, Asians, is either narrowed down significantly or at best eliminated. So that's a big task that the Chancellor oversees to make sure that equity is throughout our district. And then, of course, the Chancellor must make sure that we have the best use of our resources.
Okay.
Our resources are used in an efficient and effective manner for the purpose for which it is designed for. And we build a great deal of partnerships with the community that we serve, with the Latino Network, with the NAACP, with the African American Historical Society, with the Chambers of Commerce, with every entity. We have very good partnership with higher education institutions, with UCR, with Cal State San Bernardino, with our private non-profit institutions like La Sierra, Cal Baptist, Redland, Loma Linda are all our partners. And we partner with all our K-12 institutions.
Yes.
So that we have very strong pipeline for students in K-12 to even access community college courses while they are still in K-12, which we call dual enrollment, the CCAP, early college, middle college, various mechanisms, because the ultimate goal of our success is to reduce remediation and to shorten time for graduation. So these are some of the many responsibilities that the Chancellor has.
I like how you said the equity, trying to get people from diversity, ethnic groups, even level of education. Because of your rich experience in higher education, where do you see technology influencing the next generation, the next 10, 15 years? Do you think that we're moving towards a more technological learning, as opposed to probably when you went to school or when I went to school, it was very traditional. You go to class, you see a teacher. Do you see that moving, like evolving to more one day community colleges not being available, but being available in people's homes, like 100%?
Maybe I'm one of those conservatives groups. I don't think so. I think, to me, there is a lot more to learning than just, accessing information through technology. Education is not a commodity that you can buy through Amazon.
I like that.
Okay.
I like that.
Education is a sum total of everything that is in this campus. There is so much education that goes on, not only within the classrooms, but also outside the classrooms.
Interesting.
That the students have student clubs, there are many lectures, there are many symposia, there are, so just like, a child that is, well taken care of becomes a reflection of the family, many of our students also become a reflection of the institution they grow in.
Wow, I like that.
And so that personal connections, every student that you talk to has had someone that has inspired him or her to reach where they have reached. And they make lifelong friends through various contacts, not just inside the classroom, but also outside the classroom. So we contribute all-rounded citizens that are able to cooperate, that are able to be resilient, that are able to support each other, that are collaborative. And so I think that component of us will remain. I think that technology will facilitate a lot of things. Yes, we have students who cannot come to the classroom. We have single moms who cannot have child care for their kids, and therefore they need support. So where a student is unable to come to the classroom, we need to be able to come to him. We have to take the classroom to him.
I like that.
Or to her. So, yeah, and of course, we have many ways now of accessing information. You don't have to go to the library only. You can have it in your iPhone. You can access a number of information, volumes of information, sometimes too much information.
Is that right?
But I think technology will help us learn a lot more, faster, and will help us accomplish discoveries much easier than we did earlier. But I don't think it will replace our teaching and learning modus operandus totally. It will have significant influence, but not completely.
I like that. So the human connection, right? The human connection, teacher, student, we really can't replace that through technology. Now, transitioning a little bit to Dr. Isaac, what was your childhood like? Can you take us back to what was it like when you were a child?
I was like every kid, a happy kid. Grew up in a very low-income family.
Okay.
My mother never went to school. My father completed 3rd grade.
Oh, wow.
And so no one in the whole family tribe was educated. So we had very low means. We were 8 kids. One died early, so we were 7 kids that grew up in a very small space. So from early childhood, we've learned how to share because there wasn't enough for everyone. And by the time I came to high school, at 14, I had to learn how to work to continue to support myself and also my siblings. Okay. So I worked in a American military home. There was a military base near the town where I grew, and so I was given a job to clean the floors, to shine the shoes, to wash the dishes at dinner. In return, I was given a space in the basement where I could have access to electric light because I didn't have that at home.
Wow.
And and then I water the garden, wash the car.
Yeah.
So as a little kid, I learned all these things to do and balance it with my studies. So I studied till late at night. I learned to work very long hours as a child, and I made something like $5-6 a month that I supported my mom with that because I had food. They fed me, so I didn't need any food. Okay. And I had some clothing that they also gave me. And so it helped me finish high school. Yeah. And then I won a scholarship to go to the university in Ethiopia, at the University of Addis Ababa, where the scholarship was minimal. It was a dorm and the food. And because I had so many siblings, I worked as a part-time teacher in the evenings. Okay. The Department of Chemistry also gave me a job in the beginning as a lab technician. So I prepare the labs, prepare the solutions.
Interesting. Okay.
And so I made a little bit of money to be able to support my siblings. And as I moved upwards in my university education, I was given, even though I was still a student, I was given a job like a graduate assistant where I went in to give tutorials and to help the teacher grade assignments. Wow. And from there I finished my undergraduate and competed to win a scholarship to the United States.
Interesting.
So as poor as I was very young. I started school at the age of 6 and I never stopped because many of my teachers, in spite of all the financial hurdles that I have, all my teachers encouraged me to go on, to not stop, to go on and not stop. So I was only, just completed 26, coming to 27 years old when I was getting my PhD in medicinal chemistry.
Wow. 26, 27?
26, 27, I finished my PhD. So I finished my PhD in May 1972. You were not born at that time.
It's okay. But now, I mean, even understanding that in higher education, did you ever have these cultural challenges, and how did you overcome those? Would you consider yourself as an immigrant to America? I mean, besides the term immigrant, what kind of challenges and cultural challenges did you face and overcame?
So I think the first thing is, as poor as I was as a child, my mom was she still is, she's finishing 97, going 98. She's still
Wow.
alive. She is a very religious woman,
Okay.
and she always made us feel we are rich. We never accepted that we are poor. That she always prayed and said that, God has given what we need.
Interesting.
That, there are lots of people who are worse than us. And so I grew up as a very proud boy, and so I never felt any kind of complex.
Interesting.
I was good at school. I was very competitive.
Yes.
So yeah, when I went to the University of Michigan, there were times when I would be looking for an apartment. I'd pick up a phone and talk if the apartment is available, and they couldn't tell from my accent
Right.
where I come from. And they'd think, I remember once I asked the lady, and she said, "Where are you from?" And I said, to make it easier for her, Eritrea is a very small country that became independent later. It used to be part of Ethiopia. So I said, "I'm from Ethiopia." I said, "You know where that is?" She said, "Oh yeah, isn't it somewhere near France?" I said, "Well, no, but anyhow," I said, "Is the apartment available?" She said, "Oh yeah, it's ready, it's available."
Okay.
And as soon as she saw me, she was shocked.
Huh.
And she said,
Interesting.
she never said it was available. The apartment is gone.
It's booked.
Yeah, it's not. So you see, a few places where you're going and they would stop you because it's, an area where very expensive homes are there.
Right.
And they would be asking you a number of questions and send you. It took me a little bit until I figured, why they were doing it.
Okay.
And you get stopped by police and you get a little bit of harassment and they find out who you are and then they'll let you go. And so I learned all of that, but I fought it. It never stopped me. I lived in the United States as a student.
Okay.
I lived in Sweden in AstraZeneca
Yes.
for 10 years. I've traveled and worked in Britain, in Japan, in other parts of Africa. I was a professor in Nigeria, West Africa, for 7 years.
Wow.
So I have learned that there are, cultural differences that one must navigate.
I like that. Culture difference that we must learn how to navigate, right? Because it's always going to be a difference, right? No matter where we are in the world, there's people that are just parts of the world that are different. Now, transition a little bit too, as the male mentoring VCAS, my goal has always been is to let our viewers know that we're human beings. At the end of the day, we have our own personal challenges, even though our names are on a plaque, on an office, on a catalog. At the end of the day, we're just people. So one of the questions I have is, what was your personal experience as a clinical researcher? And correct me if I'm wrong. As a clinical researcher, and how did COVID-19 really influenced you, but as a father? Because I want to believe you have that experience in rich education and that research, but at the same time, we're also parents. We're also a father. How did you navigate when you first, well, as we all, encountered COVID-19?
I think for me it was not that difficult
Okay.
because I simply tried to enforce the guidelines of the public health department
Right.
to be followed in the house strictly. Now that's very hard
Yeah.
because both my kids are, UC students, and so they have their own ideas, and so they would say that it doesn't matter, it doesn't affect them, and indeed, we live in the same place. Both of them has had it twice, but
Oh, wow. Okay.
I asked them to test, and then they find out they're positive because they were feeling a little
Right.
uneasy, but it didn't. It was nothing. It was less than a cold. They didn't have any.
Yeah.
But of course, they are smart kids, so
Right.
they wanted to protect me too,
Oh, interesting.
so that they whenever they tested just
Right.
to make sure that they don't bring infection to me. And whenever they found they are positive, we isolated them. They're isolated, and we followed the guideline very strictly.
Okay.
And I think that the problem with COVID was not a scientific problem. It was a political problem.
Interesting. Okay.
You know, it was too politicized that, some, political groups felt that it wasn't a problem.
Right.
And others, of course, the numbers and the millions and millions of people that died and the many relatives that died clearly shows that it is a disease. But for some, it was simply hard to accept it, that they are just counting numbers of people who died from heart attack, from this and that, and gave it to COVID. COVID wasn't the problem. So that, I think, is the problem. The politicization is a problem. And of course, we as citizens of this nation are so divided politically.
Correct.
And it goes now in almost everything that we do. Once it's politicized, it becomes difficult to come into a very rational and logical solution.
So I like how you touched that point where we all had to do some form of following the guidelines, and I like how you touched also on the reality that you had too. Your sons were worried about you, where, hey dad, you may want to look into this. Hey dad, you may want to be careful. Because sometimes I want to believe that our students sometimes see us as untouchables, like, they have everything ready to go. And we were actually, in my position as a father, is trying to help my kids navigate through being at home and not be able to go outside, or a simple restaurant. We forget the value of visiting a restaurant and having a meal with your family. I appreciate your perspective, though, as a father, but still in your position following guidelines. But even with that, I usually like to ask the people I interview kind of not necessarily a silly question, but a question where we can see more of the human part of you. If you could change places with anyone in the world, who would it be and why? If you can change your position with somebody, who would it be?
I think right now, there is no position.
Interesting. Okay.
There is no position that I would like to trade. I think I have a job I love.
Okay.
The mission is very clear. I am in the midst of a unique opportunity where I can use my talents to change the lives and trajectories of many young men and women.
Like that.
Nothing is more fulfilling to any human being than looking at being a servant of change, contributing to the transformation of students, to look at students who came from very low beginnings like me and end up going through our programs and end up being entrepreneurs, or they are physician assistants, or they are dental hygienists, or they're nurses, they are welders, whatever they are. Every time I go to places and people greet me and they say, I'm a student at RCCD, remember me? And I said, not very well, but tell me more.
Right.
And to see them completely transformed from what they were, I think that that aspect of it is so fulfilling that I don't know that I want to trade it with anything.
Interesting. I like that. I like that response. But Dr. Isaac, I know you're a busy man. I would like to thank you for the opportunity to interview and allow our male student viewers and general population to see you from an additional lens of who you are as a man, as a father, as an educator and chancellor. I appreciate your time. I really do.
Absolutely.
And, I just want to make sure our viewers know that at the end of the day, we do play a role in our home, but we also have jobs. And it makes me happy knowing that what makes you happy is allowing students and allowing the next generation to have an opportunity to change their lives through education.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much.
My last message to students, I
Yes,
think,
yes.
is that I see myself in our students.
I love that.
I see myself in our students because I was there. I was poor. I had nothing. You know, I started from ground zero because I want to prove that poverty, you know, is a difficult challenge to overcome, but it's not impossible.
It's not impossible. Like
So,
that.
I mean, no one would imagine that a little kid from one of the poorest nations in the continent of Africa
That's right.
would navigate through all this lengthy path and end up at a place where I am right now.
Yes.
So I said, I see myself in every student that is struggling today, and I want to give them hope. And because I see myself in them, it gives me inspiration.
Good.
It gives me inspiration to work even harder to support them. But then I also plead that students see themselves in me and say to themselves that, well, if he can do it,
If he can.
then I can do it too.
Yeah.
Okay? So that students should be inspired by the humble beginning that I too, just like them,
Correct.
had
Correct.
and made it. And I'm no genius. I'm just an ordinary student.
Right.
And so if I'm able to do that, then every student should take inspiration from that they too can do it.
So students, you have it there, all the way from East Africa. You have a chancellor have made it, gone through a different route, was never given a silver platter. He had to really work hard. And once again, Riverside City College. If you have questions, we have answers. I hope you can take this interview and really maybe even replay it, you know, because this is our chancellor saying that he struggled too. But he made it to his dream, and now he's living it. So once again, thank you for watching. Dr. Isaac, thank you once again for giving us your time, even though you're a busy man. Thank you.